Slide 18a talks about triangulation and validity. So we began with three data sources. Our first is an observation guide. The validity that proves this is that we will construct a graphic organizer or observation record sheet outlining the specific aspects of the social interaction process we want to focus on to ensure only the appropriate observations are recorded. Our second data source is records and artifacts. So this involves collecting records and artifacts from a variety of ASD participants through a variety of different times, also ensuring that data being measured is collected from previous educators. Our third data source is questionnaires. Co-create the open and closed questions with specialized school personnel not listed as participants. Example, the admin team. Questions are directly related to the research question in terms of terminology, concepts, and measures participants' responses depending on their roles within the school to provide a broader database for information. This data allows us to gather information from a variety of people to see ideas, methods, and strategies used to help create active inclusion for ASD students. Our group is addressing issues of validity and reliability by including multiple perspectives of the variety of individuals and interacts with students with ASD on a daily basis within the school community. Our different data sources ensure we are validating experiences of the student, their peers, the paraprofessionals, educators, and support staff. Using all three data sources together helps us build a broader representation of how interactions and friendships are being developed between students with and without ASD. The observation guide will provide details relating to specific interactions. The IEP and the student's OSR will provide necessary information to help guide our students, and the responses from the questionnaires directly distributed throughout the year will help support the correct progression of our action research framework. Using the same tools, i.e. observation guides and questionnaires, reflects our research reliability that results in information we can easily detect and determine any growth of the students. Our triangulation of data represents a school community perspective of building and nurturing relationships between students with and without ASD. The questions would be geared toward the social climate of the class. It would also ask educators about the setting, context, priors, antecedents of specific social situations which involve the students. This would help capture a better understanding of how to initiate and set up appropriate interactive situations for the future regarding improving the success of the student. By collecting our own records and artifacts from our own classroom, as well as exploring past data collected by educators with ASD, students will help us to explore methods that will help us create an inclusive environment for ASD students. For example, creating anecdotal records on strategies being implemented to assess what worked well, what did not work well, how it looked, will help us strive for ways to socialize ASD students in an inclusive environment. Slide 18b is triangulation and reliability as well. Our data source begins with observation guide. Having one consistent person, in this case the designated EA, will be filling out the same record log each day, providing reliable results with minimal, if any, interpretive discrepancies. Our second data source comes from records and artifacts. Records and results completed in the past will be compared to work completed to look for areas of growth and improvement. Using records and artifacts will allow educators to recognize strategies implemented in the past that can be applied to ASD students with the same needs. Questionnaires. The same individuals will be encouraged to complete the same questionnaire at different times throughout the school year. Their three different responses can then be compared, and patterns changes can be perceived as a direct result of the action phases. Slide 19 talks about our participants and settings. So from the observation guide, which is our data source, our participants will be one student diagnosed with ASD in an integrated classroom, the AA assigned to either the classroom or that particular student. The setting will be that the EA can bring the logbook with them as they travel with the student throughout the day through different parts of the school. For records and artifacts, our participants would be the homeroom teacher and special education resource teachers involved. the principal, other office administration staff, and one student diagnosed with ASD. The setting will involve the homeroom teacher and special education resource teachers working together with the principal and parents to look at previous student records to set a plan in place. Information should be shared with the students and EA as well. Questionnaires. The participants will be in-school certs, teachers with or without students diagnosed with ASD in their current classrooms, and this will be indicated on the questionnaire. Number of students integrated in the classrooms will also be important. The setting will involve one paper copy of the questionnaire handed out and returned back in the envelope to designated locations to ensure confidentiality, completed at participants' convenience. The teachers that we chose were because many teachers have some sort of experience working with students with ASD, so although they may not have any students in their current class with that diagnosis, their experiences and feedback are still extremely valuable and useful for us to understand how to move forward and new strategies to try in the future. Our 20th slide talks about ethical considerations. For an observation guide, because specific participants will be using the data, it's imperative that we get consent from students or their family, if necessary, and from their EA, as we are asking them to fill in extra paperwork in addition to their daily workload. Administrative personnel will also have to be informed of the content and basis of the information being gathered. Records and artifacts, records and test results are strictly monitored and should be housed in the office under lock and key. At discretion of the administrative personnel, homeroom teachers should have access to these records and should use them to ensure particular students with ASD are being supported and having their needs met. These records should serve to enforce an actively inclusive program for students with exceptionalities. Questionnaires. Special education resource teachers and homeroom teachers will have copies that are in plain envelopes and delivered to staff mailboxes with a note explaining return procedures. They will be asked to return the form, complete or not, in the same envelope to have been located in the staff workroom. Participants will be encouraged to complete the questionnaire before a certain date when the bin will be collected. For students, a similar envelope with a class set of questionnaires will be placed in corresponding teacher mailboxes that are integrated classrooms and are to be completed at a time and process organized by a teacher. The envelope can be returned to the same bin in the staff workroom by the same date. As teachers conducting the research, we would understand our families and students appropriately need to recognize what sort of modifications and preparation our class may need during or after research sessions. We would want to make sure that we are recording only objective data that we observe and not what we are inferring, because we do already have a relationship established with these students. The guiding questions and prepared observation log sheet will help combat this ambiguity. Having the variety of data sources outside of the classroom environment will help us normalize experiences as well as provide a more reliable data from different contexts. Our 21st slide is our timeline chart, the data collection process we would use for our action research. So our type of data is observation guide. How will it be collected? Preferably having the EA complete the log before, during, after each school day in order to gather plenty of evidence supporting different types and times of interaction the student encounters. The second type of data is record and artifacts. How will it be collected? At the beginning and end of each unit, multiple times a month, student records and results to ensure that students are receiving adequate support as well as for learning, as learning, and of learning. Our third type of data is questionnaires. How will this be collected and when? Approximately 4 times throughout an entire school year. September for a diagnostic, December and March, each after designing and implementing various strategies. June, post-year reflection. Are there any patterns and observable progressions? Slide 22 is our data analysis. Once student questionnaires are completed, the results of the student responses will be compiled into a spreadsheet with items and responses. Descriptive statistics will be used in the form of frequencies and percentages to describe the results, and bar graphs will be used to illustrate findings. In terms of our observation guides, various types of interaction should be sorted in order to analyze different types of behavior, patterns, and learning experiences. Teachers, educational staff, EAs, and parents will meet to discuss monthly and decide what actions need to be taken. For our records and artifacts, once student records and artifacts have been collected, the results will be analyzed to note key findings across different time periods, schools, and staff members involved with the data. If a teacher has an ASD student in their classroom with special needs, records and artifacts will be analyzed to assess different strategies that were implemented to help integrate and socialize the student into their classroom. Questionnaires. As questionnaires are completed, trends will be noted. Patterns and observable progressions will play a role in future questions. Do students feel as though there are certain areas of weakness that need to be addressed? Questionnaires will become more focused as answers are collected and investigated. For our closure, slide 23. Since completing our action research study, it can help support our knowledge and teaching practice in a variety of ways. Within our future years as educators, we will encounter students with a diverse range of needs, including ASD. Students with ASD often encounter issues with socialization with their peers, which led to our initial research question. Our annotated literature review and research allowed us to discover ways to program, to focus on discussions around inclusion, the importance of teachers to commit to the inclusive classrooms with ASD students. For instance, exploring data, including observation guides, records, artifacts, and questionnaires, allowed us to access reliable and valid information, as well as strategies to ensure that we create active inclusion for ASD students. Finally, learning how to create organized, actionable research plans has allowed us to become educators equipped for the modern classroom. Thank you for listening. Bye.